You're listening to ADHD Support Talk Radio. ADHD Support Talk is brought to you by addclasses.com. Visit addclasses.com for helpful online events today. Hello, and welcome back to ADHD Support Talk. I'm your co-host, Lynn Idris, and I am a productivity coach, and I empower professionals to take control of their time and their lives so that they can fulfill their potential and have more time and energy for what matters most to them. As you guys probably know by now, I am a woman with ADHD myself, so I have been where so many of you may be right now, and I've come out the other side, so to speak. So I've gone from living in a constant state of chaos and underperformance and feeling unfulfilled to a life of more success and fulfillment than I really dreamed was possible for me at one time. And I honestly do believe that every single one of you can share your own version of success yourselves. And that's why we're here. You can learn more about me and what I do and the programs and services I offer at my website, which is www.coachingadvantages.com. Today, I want to talk about a topic that's important to a lot of my clients. It's something I want to share something that's been really helpful for a lot of my clients. And I call it the 5 Ds of ADHD productivity. You know, managing time and being truly productive and efficient is really difficult for a lot of us with ADHD, right? We tend to have a lot of things on our plate that we either want to do, need to do, feel we ought to do. And sometimes our ADHD optimism gets us in trouble. We get excited about the possibilities of something. We see the potential in things and we want to do them. We want to help. We want to take them on, or we feel like we could or we should take them on. Some of us have a hard time saying no to others, but many of us haven't learned how to say no to ourselves either. And that's really difficult. So we end up with way too many commitments, way too much on our plates, way too many to-dos on our lists. I always remind my clients that true productivity is the efficient and effective use of 3 very precious resources. It's the efficient use of your time, your energy, and your bandwidth. It's not about sheer output. It's not about, sheer volume, doing as much as you possibly can. It's about doing the right things and doing them more easily and doing them in a way that efficiently and effectively utilizes your time, your energy, and your bandwidth. Here's the cold, hard truth. And some of you are going to hate to hear this, but there is always going to be more to do in any given day than any of us can realistically expect to do. And that has nothing to do with ADHD, right? It's true for everyone. It's just a fact of modern life, but it's more often more true for many of us with ADHD because we tend to take on so much and because we tend to not say no to ourselves and not say no to others. The truth is that not everything deserves those resources. Not everything deserves our time, our energy, and our bandwidth or our focus. And not everything deserves as much of those resources as we might think either, right? It's how you manage your own expectations, how you manage your thinking around those things, the things that you need, want, and feel like you ought to do, how you filter through all of it to decide what does deserve your time, your energy, and your focus or bandwidth, and then how you manage the things you actually do intend to do. That's what makes all the difference. It's that middle part, that filtering through and deciding where you intend to spend your precious resources of time, energy, and bandwidth that can make all the difference. And that's what I want to talk about today, because that can be really hard for so many of us with ADHD. So I developed a framework or a filter, if you will, for my clients to use when they're looking at all the things, right? All the potential to-dos that are screaming for their attention. And I call it the 5 Ds of productivity. So I want to explain to you the 5 Ds of productivity and then kind of give you some ideas on how you can use this model, use this filter to help you make better use of your time, your energy, and your bandwidth. And if you want to download a copy of an infographic that I created to help you kind of keep the 5 Ds front of mind, I'll tell you in a couple of minutes how to do that. Back to the 5 Ds. So the 5 Ds are delete, defer, delegate, diminish, and do. Okay, so the first one is delete. The second one is defer. The third one is delegate. 4 is diminish, and 5 is do. So let's start with delete. That's my favorite. Be brutal here. The less you have to manage, the less you have to manage. So get used to letting things go. A question you can ask yourself when it's time to consider deleting something off of your list or off of your commitments or out of your mind is, am I really honestly likely to actually do this thing? Another question, is this thing in line with the life I want for myself? Another way to ask that question is this thing really lined up with my values? Is this thing going to move me closer to the life I want? And then finally, what are the negative ramifications of not doing this thing? Are bad things going to happen if I delete this off my list altogether? So delete is number one. I often call that the round file. I don't know if that term resonates with any of you, but in the olden days when things were mostly paper, the round file was my favorite, right? Going through the mail and throwing away as much as I possibly can, or shredding, recycling as much as I possibly can right out of the gate, filters off the stuff that you don't need to focus on. And that's what we want to do with the first D of productivity, is get rid of what really doesn't deserve to be there. Then the second D is defer, as in delay, right? Defer it to another time, postpone it. This here, you've got to be really honest with yourself with this piece, with the defer. So a question you can ask yourself is, given what's on my plate, given what's on my calendar right now, what I know, when realistically do I intend to take care of this thing? So given what's on my plate and on my calendar right now, when realistically do I intend to take care of this thing? And the question is not, when should I? When do I hope to? But really, when do I realistically intend to take care of this thing? So deferring is not telling yourself no, it's not deleting, it's deciding not now. So another way that I often kind of frame this with clients is I will say, is it that thing's turn yet? If it's not that thing's turn right now, given what you know about your commitments and what's on your calendar, then it's something that really needs to and can be deferred until a later date and time. Okay, so we've done delete, we've done defer, and now we'll do delegate. And this is a tough one for a lot of us. To whom can you delegate this? And it isn't always a person that we can delegate things to. Some kinds of things we can automate. Some kinds of tools we can use can also be a form of delegation. There are some common troubles that my clients tend to run into with delegation. Okay, so if you have someone that you can delegate something to, or that can take over something for you, or a way that you don't have to actually do it yourself, one of the things that is often problematic for my clients that have ADHD and those kinds of challenges is to be able to delegate something to someone or something else. You do need to be sufficiently organized to be able to be clear about what you want and what you need. And one of the things that happens when we're not sufficiently organized to be able to easily tell someone, what we need them to do and, whatever details they need, is that it feels easier to just do it yourself. Right. And I ran into this a lot when my children were younger. And I think probably some of you can relate to that with kids, with partners, with your team at work, right? Sometimes it feels easier to do it yourself than to have to do the work to have someone else do it for you. That's just another really sneaky way of perfectionism and all or nothing thinking to get in your way. So if you're telling yourself that if I want it done the right way, I'm using my quotey fingers that you can't see, if I want it done the right way, I have to do it myself, then that's something to really think about. Like, what is the right way? And does it have to really be done whatever you're calling, the right way? That's another sneaky way that perfectionism and all or nothing thinking can get in our way. So rethink delegation. Think about it in terms of leadership. Think about it in terms of helping other people grow as well. If you have children, if you have a partner, if you have roommates, if you have a team at work, people that you work with, allowing others to use their strengths, allowing others to grow and develop skills is an important thing that we need to do as a leader. And again, this goes for those of us who are business leaders as well as parents and anybody else. So if you hate to clean, there are actually people out there who love to clean. I'm not one of them. I didn't get that gene. If you hate to cook, there are actually people out there who love to cook. Hate to do bookkeeping? Again, there are people out there who love that stuff, and that is their strength. So if it's not your strength or your interest, let someone else use their innate talents and strengths to do it for you. They don't have to do it the exact same way that you do. They don't have to do it perfectly. Yes, we have to pick and choose, of course, but if you want it badly enough, you may be able to find a creative way to do it that works for you, a creative way to delegate it that works for you. So I have someone that I pay to come a couple of times a month to clean, and she does the stuff that I hate to do and I do the rest. She does the, kind of the yuckier stuff. I couldn't always afford to do that, right? So I did have a friend that I bartered with who cleaned for me in exchange for babysitting. Nothing wrong with that. I would way rather watch someone else's kids than clean, frankly, especially like my own house, right? So get creative. I had another friend who was really like into organizing, and she had someone organize for her, help her kind of organize her kitchen in exchange for a testimonial for that person's new business. I had a client who had someone help her with her bookkeeping in exchange for some artistic work. So if you get creative, you might find ways to delegate, but really the thing that gets in the way for most of us, more than, financially being able to afford or not knowing to whom to delegate, is that belief that we have to do it ourselves or that we ought to do it ourselves. So when I'm trying to think of other examples, I always think of when my children were younger, it was always felt to me, especially my son with ADHD, hopefully he doesn't listen to this, but he absolutely knows this is true. It always felt easier to me, for example, to do the vacuuming than to like nag him until he actually did it, or to do the vacuuming myself rather than to kind of, make sure that he did it right. But me doing it myself didn't really help him learn how to do it in a way that worked. And me doing it myself, or me coming behind him and redoing what he had done, didn't help him learn to do it in a way that was actually helpful for him. So really looking at, what's your perfectionism? What is your standards? Where can you meet in the middle? What's the outcome that you're looking for? And how can you find ways to delegate some of the things that are hanging over your head? So the question you can ask yourself is, am I the only person who can do this? And that question is not, am I the best person to do this? But am I the only person who can do this? And then get creative and see what you can come up with. So that was delegate. So we have delete, defer, delegate, and the next one is diminish. So when you want to diminish, you want to make it smaller, make it easier, make it happen in a way that is more doable for you. Okay. So for diminish, you want to get really clear on what the point is of the thing that you need or want to do. So get really clear on the final objective of the thing. Okay. What is the final point? What is the desired outcome of this thing? And then what's the easiest way for me to get to that objective? Okay. And that's very personal, right? What's the simplest way? What's the easiest way for me to reach that objective? I often tell my clients, like, your path to done, whatever it takes for you to get something done, doesn't need to be anybody else's path to done. So if you have some weird way of getting something done or reaching that desired outcome, do it the way that's easiest for you to actually do it. So what's the easiest way for you to reach that final objective? And get really clear on that. Okay, so focusing on done is better than perfect, focusing on elegance, right? Elegance being the simplest, clearer, cleanest way for you to get to whatever that final objective is. Not the perfect way, not the right way, but the cleanest, simplest way for you personally to get to that final objective. And then the final one is do, right? Whatever's left after you delete, after you defer, after you delegate, after you diminish is what you want to do. The 5 Ds of productivity is a different way for you to think about how you allocate your time, how you allocate your energy, and how you allocate your focus or your bandwidth so that you have more left over for what really matters most to you. Okay, so give it some thought. I hope you found this helpful. And if you want a handy infographic to help you kind of cut through the muck so that you can get right to the things that are the right things to do and get them done more easily, you can visit my website. The page is www.coachingaddvantages.com/5D. That's coachingaddvantages.com/5 and the letter D. And we'll email you a copy of the infographic as well as helpful tips on how to use the infographic with practical strategies that you can put into place right now to help you cut through the noise, cut through the muck, cut through the excess, and get the right things done more easily. Okay, I hope you guys found this helpful. I hope you find the infographic helpful, but it's another way to think about the things that you need to do. It's another way to think about managing your time, managing your energy, and managing your focus so that you have more left over for the things that really matter most to you. And if you have questions, join us in the ADHD Support Talk Facebook group. Happy to discuss with you, happy to answer any questions you might have. I'd love to have you all join us there and share thoughts and ideas, ask questions of Tara and I, connect with us, let us know what topics or what guests you'd like to have on the podcast. And if you find the podcast helpful and you enjoy it, we would really appreciate it if you left us a 5-star review on iTunes. The more 5-star reviews we get, the more people can find us and get the help and support they need as well. So thank you all for listening. As always, I appreciate your time and I appreciate your attention. And again, this is Lynn Idris with ADHD Support Talk.